What are the thoughts and what is the mind of President Donald Trump on Israel and Iran? Well, we just saw this post on Truth Social a moment ago, and this is what he had to say. The president putting out there on social media this: "We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He is an easy target, but is safe there. We are not going to take him out," parenthesis kill, exclamation point, "at least for now," he says. But the president goes on to say, "We don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter." So watching it in real time also with us is once again senior White House and political correspondent Ed O'Keefe live at the White House. Ed, the last time he put something out there, he used the term "we." This time he's using the word "our." Those would communicate some coordination there.
Yeah, so there's now been 3 Truth Social posts, and if the control room would pull up the most recent one as well from 10 minutes ago, that would be helpful. In the last 35 minutes or so, that now suggests the president is fully aware of what's going on and beginning now to publicly telegraph the potential for a more direct engagement by the United States in this situation. So 35 minutes ago, it was a message that said we now have complete and total control of the skies over Iran. Iran had good sky trackers and other defensive equipment and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to American-made, conceived and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better than the good old USA. That raised questions on what's the definition of we. Now this is the third and most recent of his posts. Unconditional surrender, which would suggest he is now telling Iran it's time to give up. Okay, but for what ends and to whom exactly and under what conditions? And the reason this carries so much gravity, if you're a viewer watching this thinking, who cares that he's saying this on social media, it's because everybody over here tells us what he says on social media should be considered, U.S. or presidential policy, that this is what he believes and this is what he's conveying to the world and this is what he wants to see happen. So for him to say now the United States, or infer, if the we is the United States, have total control of the skies over Iran, that's a significant development. He's now goading the supreme leader of Iran by suggesting, we know where you are, we're not going to kill you, but you should be engaged in this, and don't you be firing anything at American service members or diplomats in the Middle East, because, as he says, our patience is wearing thin, and now this unconditional surrender message as well. So all of this, Reed, suggests in the meetings he's been having since he returned very early this morning from the G7 in Canada, that he's getting read in on the situation, and that we may be nearing more direct U.S. engagement in Israel's attacks on Iran. Remember, there were some outstanding issues here. Would he send the Mideast envoy, Steve Witkoff, and or Vice President Vance to the region to meet with Iranian officials about a diplomatic solution and ending its nuclear ambitions? And our Margaret Brennan and others have talked about the various detailed proposals that might exist. Would they have to give up all of their domestic uranium enrichment? Maybe they'd be able to get it from somebody else. Maybe they'd have to send what they've developed already so far to Russia or some other entity to get it out of that country. So that was on the table as Israel began its bombardment. Then there's the question of U.S. military engagement. Are we now directly engaging? Are we helping with intelligence and some situational awareness of what has happened in Iran, inside Iran, now that Israel has done this? Is the United States being convinced by the Israeli government to participate more fully? Would they potentially deploy those big bunker-busting bombs that B-2 bombers can drop over Fadao, which is the major nuclear enrichment facility that is embedded inside a large mountain that requires multiple 30,000-pound bombs to penetrate and destroy? But this is the message now, the most recent one, that perhaps real suggestion now that the United States, or at least the president, is more directly engaging not only in this situation, but literally with the supreme leader by saying, we know where you are, we're not going to kill you yet, and don't come after American forces. The don't come after American forces is consistent with what he's been doing and saying since last week, because that was the sort of initial red line. If Iran hits U.S. bases or the embassy in Baghdad or some other diplomatic outpost, that would trigger an immediate and forceful military response. Now, with these messages we've seen here in the last 40 minutes or so, there's a suggestion of more direct engagement and certainly much more awareness of what it is Israel's up to and him publicly talking about it.
And a bottom line, unconditional surrender. Ed O'Keefe, we know we'll likely see you a lot more, not only in this broadcast, but in future broadcasts. CBS News 24/7 and CBS Evening News throughout the day. Thank you so much. So let's continue the conversation, bringing in Alex Vitanka. He's a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute. Alex, the president just sending out the message, unconditional surrender. What do you deduce from that, especially given the context in what appears to be a direct message to the supreme leader? We know where you are. We are not going to kill you. But there almost felt like an implied yet there.
Right. So if you're sitting in Tehran, really difficult, I guess, for them to decide what to do next. What we know for sure is we haven't heard this sort of language from the president before. Up until now, 4 days into this conflict, it's been about the nuclear program in Iran. We've been talking about enrichment, whether Iran should have the right to enrich uranium on its soil or not. We're talking a very different game here now going forward. And, I don't know what to expect. Is this a pressure sort of tactic on the part of the White House to focus minds in Tehran next time? If they do meet J.D. Vance or Stephen Witkoff, that they come back to the table and offer the sort of bigger concession that the president's asked for all along? Or is this kind of too late at this point? We're talking regime change. Final point I make, if we're talking regime change, what kind of regime change are we talking about? I mean, is the president asking Ali Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran for the last 36 years, to essentially get on a plane and, I don't know, move somewhere like Russia, the way Assad did, or something else is happening? There's really so many questions in terms of what I have as an analyst, just listening to you guys describe the president's latest statements on Iran.
Well, and history teaches us that those words, unconditional surrender, that is wartime language, and that is a bottom line means business. I'm fascinated that you mentioned the Assad regime. I was thinking the same thing. Could it be that President Trump and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu are looking at what happened with the fall of Bashar al-Assad, and they're hoping for the exact same thing to happen in Iran?
In many ways, that might just be the best thing that could happen. Look, let me just very quickly put the context out. This Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran, is not popular with his people. I mean, at most, he's got 10-15% support. So if he was willing to get out of the where he's hiding right now and leave Iran and give, if you will, power to somebody else, that will save the country from a war that would be very devastating. And we shouldn't forget, the Islamic Republic of Iran has, in a history of 46 years, never fought a war along these lines. I mean, the experience they have is a war with Iraq, Saddam Hussein, 8 years in the 80s, a very different war. So the intensity of what might hit them, they know what's going to happen. So the question is, politically, are they in a position to sort of accept the reality, get Khamenei out of there, and look for other ways to compromise and prevent the war? Or is it too late? Are they all going to sort of essentially basically agree among themselves that the best way is to sort of fight it to the very end?
And then the question is, if he does get on a plane and leave, and that would be the mild version of what the president seems to be implying there in his message on social media to the supreme leader, who then next in Iran? Who is in charge? We have no doubt the idea that you will be looking at that there where you are from your expertise, and we thank you for talking to us on CBS News 24/7. We appreciate the conversation.